What is an Xbox game? It's a question that gets harder to answer each year. Microsoft has undeniably shifted its tactics with a new focus on multi-platform releases, handheld Xboxes that are actually miniature Windows computers, and the potential that future Xbox consoles may simply be gaming PCs. But if we look back across the history of Microsoft's mean green machines, it's clear that Xbox has been the home of some historic, game-changing offerings.
For the first time, let me now unveil Xbox.
When we say the best Xbox games, we mean the ones that most evoke that weighty sense of Xboxness. Some are first party, most are exclusives, and all of them are indelibly tied to the legacy and fondness for a platform that's left a massive mark on gaming. And today, the team from IGN's Podcast Unlocked and our friends from outside Xbox are going to celebrate the platform's greatest hits. These are the 100 best Xbox games of all time. The original Xbox was a maximalist, brutalist brick of post-Y2K design, and Steel Battalion is the purest expression of its commitment to inconvenience. The Capcom-developed mech game is arguably nothing special by itself, but the humongous HOTUS horror that it came bundled with has earned it Xbox immortality. Weighing in at a whopping 17 pounds, boasting 3 panels, 3 foot pedals, and industrial-grade divorced dad energy, Steel Battalion is an excessive peripheral that costs $200 in 2002 money. Xbox is a burly, hefty console that demands a burly, hefty experience, and Steel Battalion more than fits the bill.
Steel Battalion brings a smile to my face because it is a true one-of-a-kind game. It's a mech game. You piloted a vertical tank, or VT, but you didn't play it with a controller or with a keyboard and mouse. You played it with a custom one-off 40-button controller, a giant controller that even had a pedal box as well, with multiple throttles and levers and all kinds of buttons on it, including an eject button that if you did not hit the eject button in time when your VT was getting destroyed, your save file would be wiped and you'd have to start the entire game over again. Just an absolutely incredible thing. I can't believe Capcom made it. If the game cost $200 when it was new, it's probably worth way more than that now since it's relatively rare, and I'm so glad that it was an original Xbox exclusive because it truly is a one-of-a-kind game.
Indie games have become so ubiquitous that the word itself has become a battleground. But 18 years ago, indie largely meant games on Xbox Live Arcade. XBLA was an influential pipeline that reshaped distribution and expanded our ideas of what games could be and who was allowed to make them. Headlining the inaugural Summer of Arcade in 2008, Castle Crashers was a colorful, chaotic belt scroller with stylish hand-drawn art straight from Newgrounds. It set a new standard for 4-player co-op and helped spark a modern beat-em-up revival.
Back in the day, I was a huge fan of side-scrolling beat-em-ups. I still am, but there are fewer of them made these days. But Castle Crashers, I think, is such a great update of that old side-scrolling beat-em-up formula. It brings to mind like Golden Axe, only it's 4-player. It's got like a really weird sense of humor. Everything is fully chaotic all the time. Everyone's just running around, hitting each other, hitting enemies, throwing things around, picking things up. It's absolute chaos. If you can get 3 other people to play with you, you are guaranteed to have a fantastic time.
A sequel to Rare's hit N64 shooter, Perfect Dark Zero, began life on the GameCube before it was ordained as a flagship first-party launch title for Xbox 360. While its development was a frantic sprint to meet the console's release, the final product is a technically stunning, stylish spy thriller. It dazzled early adopters with glossy visuals and a sprawling multiplayer suite that supported a then whopping 32 players, the perfect proving ground for a new generation of Xbox Live. Microsoft was clearly strapping the rocket to Joanna Dark as a AAA franchise candidate, but the series struggled against the Halos and Call of Duties that dominated the platform. Even so, Perfect Dark Zero endures as an ambitious, feature-rich launch showcase, and after decades of false starts and development hell, it remains the last, best word on an almost Xbox icon.
Mess with my business.
The original Perfect Dark was a lot to live up to, and while Perfect Dark Zero didn't make the same kind of impact, I still enjoyed it for what it was, especially as an early Xbox 360 game. It had that shiny, stylized look that a lot of games of that era had, but I also kind of missed the way single-player shooter campaigns were structured back in the day, with a lot of multiple objectives and just trying to figure out what you were supposed to be doing, and the high difficulty of Perfect Dark was really what I was looking for at the time too. And so the fact that the series continued after the original N64 release was I was just happy that we got something at all. And maybe it hasn't aged quite as well these days, but at the time, having that single player shooter campaign was something really special.
After a litigious split from Activision, the co-creators of Call of Duty jumped ship to EA and formed Respawn, determined to reinvent the online FPS for Xbox. 2014's Titanfall dropped with acrobatic movement and wall-running gunfights that made boots-on-the-ground shooters feel instantly archaic. While the MOBA-influenced multiplayer featured awesome, screen-shaking mechs summoned from the sky, the lack of a campaign limited Titanfall's impact. By the time its multi-platform sequel more than rectified that mistake, it was far too late to conquer Call of Duty.
After the drama of the Call of Duty creators breaking off from Activision, filing a big lawsuit, but ultimately starting Respawn Entertainment, their first game was Titanfall, and oh my goodness did it deliver. The feeling of calling down your Titan, and then getting in your Titan, and suddenly you're in this mech, and everybody else is on foot, but it was a cat and mouse game. There was David and Goliath elements. It was a first-person shooter, a multiplayer first-person shooter that had that it factor that Call of Duty had way back in the day, and I have so many fond memories of playing Titanfall multiplayer.
Xbox was envisioned as a bridge between PC gaming and the comfort of the living room, a theory put to the test and proven by 2002's Morrowind. The idea of exploring such an unwieldy RPG on a TV set, let alone navigating its many layered menus with the Duke controller in your hands, seemed unthinkable. But it largely works with some compromises. Stability is shaky, and frequent saving is encouraged despite increasing the already brutal load times. Bethesda worked closely with Xbox to unlock the console's potential, utilizing tricks like stealthy system reboots to clear up memory. The relationship would blossom further with Oblivion's Xbox 360 breakout and culminate in Microsoft purchasing the studio for $7.5 billion in 2021.
The thing I remember about Morrowind was my uni housemate breathlessly coming in to tell me that he'd found a library in Morrowind and every single one of the books had been written, like was an actual written book that you could read. And he was just like, this is insane. And it was, because I think with Morrowind, that was really the first time that you had an RPG of the kind of PC scale crammed into a console. And obviously we had the same feeling again with Oblivion on 360, but I think Morrowind was that first moment where a game of that like breadth and scale could sit on a console.
After making a splash with Max Payne, Remedy Entertainment sold its Bullet Ballet franchise to Take-Two and partnered with Microsoft for the even more ambitious Alan Wake. Inspired by the misty northwest aura of Twin Peaks and the self-referential side of Stephen King, the game spent years floundering as a sprawling open world before it was scrapped and reborn as an episodic thriller. It's a prestige game that screams TV show and oozes with funky product placement.
So I played Alan Wake before the remaster, but well after it was out, and I had dodged all the spoilers. I had friends who were like, Marty, you gotta play this game. You're gonna love it. And I did, unsurprisingly. I streamed it and had such a great time figuring out how this atmosphere was built around being like intimidating survival horror, but at the same time kind of goofy. Like, especially if you're playing it and, you know, with technological advances, visual advances, and like you have like these shadows throwing like a fridge at you and you're like, all right, guys, get over here with this flashlight. It's just such a fun place to be in, even though it is supposed to be spooky. And I think that's because the storytelling is done so well, and the world itself and how its fantasy is built in this place, in this town. Obviously very evocative Twin Peaks, which I love. It's just all done so well. So even when it does get a little silly, you're like, you know what? This is great.
The journey of Xbox into the Japanese market has been an uphill climb, but its persistence has resulted in some great games. A quirky Capcom sandbox about a Colorado shopping mall became one of the killer apps for the Xbox 360. Dead Rising dazzled as a next-generation stunner with preposterous interactivity and enormous undead hordes that seemingly no other console could contain. Frank West's punishing 72-hour ordeal isn't for the faint of heart or near of sight. The tiny text was all but illegible on standard definition TVs, prompting gamers to finally take the HDTV plunge just to decipher the intrusive ramblings of incessant quest giver Otis.
fantastic.
A lot of zombie games take themselves quite seriously. I'm not naming any names, The Last of Us, but Dead Rising is a zombie game that absolutely doesn't give a single F about being serious or taking itself seriously or doing anything seriously whatsoever. You've got hundreds and hundreds of zombies, which is a great thing for a zombie game, but also you can run around like plonking surfbot heads on them, or you can throw tennis balls at them until they fall over, or you can put cooking oil on the floor and then they'll just like stagger around like they're in a slapstick comedy movie. And that's what really sets it apart, I think. It's got an amazing sense of humor and it wants you to have a nice time.
Call of Duty was an Xbox cornerstone long before Microsoft's Activision acquisition, back when Call of Duty 2 blitzed through the Xbox 360's launch as its most essential title. Roughly 4 out of every 5 early adopters shelled out $60 to christen their new consoles with Infinity Ward's smash hit sequel, which introduced modern FPS staples like regenerating health and on-screen grenade indicators. The campaign is a cinematic triumph, spanning 4 different POVs across 3 continents and brought World War II battles like D-Day to life like never before.
When I think of the 360's launch, I always think of Call of Duty 2 and all the time I spent on Xbox Live playing in multiplayer. Competitive shooters were still kind of in their infancy at the time, and this really scratched that itch. Having come off of Halo 2 on the original Xbox, we needed something for the launch of the 360, and the competitive scene was surprisingly very vibrant for Call of Duty 2. But among that, you had great maps and great gunplay, but also it was a classic World War II campaign, and having played Call of Duty the series since its inception on PC back in 2003, it felt like this huge jump. It's a new generation, it looked great, it ran really well, and it was so much fun to play. That's paved the way for the rest of the franchise as we know it today.
Grand Theft Auto's domination wasn't always an inevitability. Before GTA 4 established platform parity in 2008, it still felt like a Sony-first franchise, and Xbox spent years searching for its own GTA killer. The first, Saints Row, leaned too hard into crime sim imitation, but 2007's Crackdown upended the open-world arms race with superhuman police leaping across buildings and gobbling up agility orbs in arcade ecstasy. The brainchild of GTA creator David Jones, Crackdown's power fantasy foreshadowed other superhero sandboxes like Prototype and Infamous. And at the prospect of picking up a car and pounding crooks into the pavement wasn't enticing enough, buying Crackdown was the only ticket into the unmissable beta for Halo 3.
Listen, I know a lot of people think of Crackdown as the pack-in game for the Halo 3 beta, and I remember it for that as well, but it was a great game on its own. In an era where a lot of games were trying to be GTA, I like that Crackdown kind of didn't care about taking itself seriously. In an era where a lot of GTA clones were a little bit more grounded, I like that Crackdown separated itself by having this like superhero element, which you kind of see in Infamous and Prototype, but it felt like an arcade game stuck in an open world, and it was just so much fun to complete objectives, turn your brain off, and just clear out an open world map. And it's not the most in-depth shooter, it's not the greatest open world, but at the time for the 360, it was a technical showcase as well. And the fact that, got the Halo 3 beta along with it, you got a pretty damn good game along the way. So I really had a lot of memories playing Crackdown, just on break, turn my brain off, clear out the open world. That's all it needed to be, and we loved it for that.
Microsoft poached Rare from Nintendo in hopes of importing some family-friendly charm to soften the Mountain Dew-drenched deathmatch machismo of the Xbox brand. But its first attempt was doomed by the uninspired gameplay and eerily anatomical title of Grabbed by the Ghoulies. Viva Pinata was a more sophisticated swing, an off-kilter life sim where you recruit, tame, and breed a society of living candy vessels. Microsoft put its whole back into promoting the papier-mâché menagerie, complete with a tie-in television series. But the game baffled fans hoping for a brand new Banjo-Kazooie. Still, Rare's refusal to take the easy road is admirable, and much like the equally bizarre Nuts and Bolts, Viva Pinata has earned its flowers over time.
At the time, you didn't know that you needed a game that was like a Animal Crossing meets resource strategy management sandbox game where all the creatures are living piñatas full of candy that breed. It's like a kind of piñata breeding program, but also you can beat like one of them to death with a shovel and candy goes everywhere. And you didn't know you needed that, but Rare knew that was exactly what you needed, and that was Viva Pinata.
Licensed games were largely seen as a punchline before the age of Xbox. Lazy cash-ins, pilloried for ruining countless weekend rentals. Instead of an uninspired movie tie-in, Escape from Butcher Bay serves as a canonical prequel to Pitch Black, exploring Riddick's breakout from the titular Triple Max security prison. Developed with the input and likeness of devoted gamer Vin Diesel, it offers an atmospheric stealth experience that stands out from the bombastic shooters that define the platform. Butcher Bay helped restore the reputation of licensed games alongside other Xbox hits of the era like Spider-Man 2, several Lord of the Rings bangers, and of course, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. Stay tuned for more on that BioWare classic.
Hey, you know where I say, like his neck. I just want you to look around. Your warning days are up. I rule!
You need protection. New meat learns the hard way.
Until Batman Arkham came along, the Chronicles of Riddick Escape from Butcher Bay was probably the greatest licensed video game ever made. It took the Pitch Black and Riddick movies, and of course that character, and made an absolutely stunning, mostly stealth game out of it with mind-blowing graphics at the time. You had role-playing elements. It was really a game unlike anything we'd seen before on Xbox. It's a first-person game, but you wouldn't call it a shooter. It's also not really a stealth game. It's kind of a first-person, lots of stuff game, but the atmosphere, the action, the stealth, the suspense, all of it just comes together to make one of the most memorable original Xbox games ever.
Xbox has, not entirely unfairly, earned a somewhat aggressive image over the years. But nestled comfortably between soul-patched COG soldiers and teabagging Spartans is a tender meditation on healing. A souped-up sequel to Moon Studios' stellar Ori and the Blind Forest, Will of the Wisps swaps sprites for fluid 3D models and multi-layered dreamscapes that paint a stunning HDR showcase. The richer world, expanded combat, and welcome quality of life improvements refined Ori's first adventure, turning it into a Metroidvania masterpiece of kinetic movement, breathtaking art design, and emotional storytelling.
When you think of the Ori series, the one word that comes to mind is whimsical. And whether it's the Ori and the Blind Forest or Will of the Wisps, that art style looks great in a screenshot, but it's so different when it's in motion. And Ori the Will of the Wisps, I think, is the perfect example of marrying art style with animation and communicating a story without having to say much.
Ubisoft answered the tactical espionage action of Konami's Metal Gear Solid with its dad-core spycraft classic, Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell. This timed exclusive embodies everything that separated the first Xbox from its console contemporaries. Splinter Cell is Western. It oozes serious war on terror vibes and boasts best-in-class lighting tech driven by gadgets and shadows. Above all else, it's green. Sam Fisher would eventually infiltrate other platforms, but his first mission helped define Xbox as the home for hard-nosed, hardware-forward action.
I'll confess to being a PS2 owner when the very first Splinter Cell came out, and it was the game that made me most envious of my Xbox sort of rivals, because it was just so stunningly put together, an amazing sort of espionage story. It really felt like a kind of next-gen game, but on that console. I think just the ability to run up the walls and do a split across a corridor absolutely sold it for me.
Rare's swashbuckling pirate fantasy was released in a famously bare-bones state, though the emptiness is partly the point. Sea of Thieves strips away mini-maps, quest logs, and traditional progression in favor of a nearly HUD-less online experience. It offers you tools, not rules, designed for emergent stories and nautical camaraderie. Despite a commercially successful maiden voyage, Sea of Thieves' lack of structure raised doubts about its long-term viability. But Rare found its sea legs with years of free expansions that lured players into a pirate's life. Microsoft's most successful new IP of the generation, Sea of Thieves ultimately enticed 40 million scurvy dogs to set sail aloft its immaculately rendered waves, transforming a risky experiment into a pillar of the modern Xbox age.
For my money, Sea of Thieves is the most glorious tropical multiplayer anecdote generator where you will have the most fun pirating with your friends. Case in point, for Sea of Thieves nonsense, Andy and Mike and I, we were out on our ship on a quest to find chickens is what I remember, and so we naturally went to an island labelled Chicken Isle on the map, arrived there looking for chickens, nary a chicken to be found, completely covered in skeletons and snakes. Nary a chicken was found, and we had the most glorious time.
Frequently hailed as the pinnacle of arcade racing, Burnout 3 Takedown inverts the genre by rewarding ruthless aggression. Build boost and detonate your rivals with a glorious takedown, slowing time to savor the riveting real-time deformation of their shattered chassis. And if you find yourself in the wrong end of a pileup, the aftertouch mechanic lets you nudge your smoldering ruin to make a play against your opponents. Paired with the pileup pyromania of Crash Mode and DJ Striker's infectious pop-punk playlist, Burnout 3 remains a masterpiece of vehicular violence.
Burnout 3 Takedown is the extremely rare racing game that has aged well. Burnout 3 visually still looks really good, and even more importantly, the gameplay still holds up. A game built around crashing, instead of most racing games which are built around avoiding crashing. The crash mode is legendary, where you figure out exactly how and where to smash your car to cause the most property destruction that you possibly can. But even outside of crash mode, the road rage mode, the elimination laps, the hot laps, it's all so fast and so pure. It is the best arcade racing game I've ever played, and I still love playing it to this day.
After delivering one of the GOAT adaptations of someone else's IP, BioWare earned a sci-fi sandbox it didn't have to share. Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic vets Casey Hudson and Drew Karpyshyn built a formidable mythos from scratch, with a dozen sentient species, an ancient eldritch history, and a codex bursting with technobabble. The first Mass Effect is an absurd display of confidence for a brand new RPG setting, and its Paragon Renegade morality system and long-tail choices were a glimpse into the future of 7th generation storytelling. The mechanics and tech all feel like a first draft, but Mass Effect only grows into its ambition throughout the trilogy, and it's not a spoiler to say we haven't seen the last of Commander Shepard on this list.
I'd love to be able to tell you that it's all about the sort of galactic scale and the beautiful buildings and the strange new worlds that really sort of captured my imagination in Mass Effect, but actually it's the ability to Shatner my way around the galaxy smooching all the attractive aliens. A+, no notes.
We've spent decades taking Peter Molyneux's hyperbolic promises with a mountain of salt, but the overambitious dev definitely delivered with Fable 2. Lionhead's sequel leaned hard into life sim fantasy. You buy property, procreate, and get punished with big devil horns for your lack of purity. A glowing breadcrumb trail expedites the exploration of Albion, while an economic aspect adds idle game addictiveness to an RPG that's anything but traditional. Boasting a reactive world, interactive cutscenes, and a sense of whimsy unusual for Xbox, Fable 2 is a deep and deliciously British fairy tale about the moral turpitude of chasing passive income.
The way I remember finishing Fable 2, where I got to with Fable 2, I recall that my hero was enormously tall. You remember how you got taller? By like upping your skills? The more skillful and agile and athletic you got, the taller you got, and the more magical you got, the more you were covered in like glowing golden magic sigils. And also I was good, because I'm always good in RPGs, so I probably had like an angelic glow as well. That was my Fable 2 hero, and I love that guy. I love that guy so much.
Developed at the height of the Star Wars prequel era, when licensed games still drew understandable side-eye, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic saw BioWare wisely decline LucasArts' proposal to directly adapt Attack of the Clones. Instead, the studio told its own story set 4,000 years before the rise of the Empire, offering enough creative freedom to define the Old Republic era for decades to come. That latitude let BioWare stretch its narrative muscles and sketch the blueprint for the branching, character-driven storytelling that would eventually evolve into Mass Effect and Dragon Age. KOTOR is far from perfect. The rigid D&D-derived D20 rules are barely hidden behind the curtain, and you can practically hear dice clattering beneath the round-based combat that often devolves into an awkward slog of missed swings and clunky party wrangling. Multiple builds are available, but the power fantasy of lightsabers and OP force abilities nudge most players down a similar path. However, the sheer strength of the script absolves the game of its many mechanical sins. With compelling characters like the xenocidal droid HK-47 and emotionally unavailable Karth Onasi, a planet-hopping journey that carries you across the Star Wars galaxy, and a monumental narrative twist that casts your entire experience in a shocking new light, KOTOR is a landmark game that truly cemented the RPG credibility of the Xbox brand.
Dark Jedi! This fight is too much for us. We better stay back. All we do is get in the way.
Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, or KOTOR, is probably my favorite role-playing game of all time. It fully embraced the idea of the light side and the dark side in this BioWare-made, full-blown, amazing role-playing game with an incredible story, by the way, that I don't, even all these years later, I don't want to spoil it for you, because supposedly there's a remake and I don't want to ruin anything. But KOTOR just has incredible characters, incredible choices. I went full dark side and just had an incredible time backstabbing people sometimes, literally double-crossing people. It is a tremendous Star Wars game. You visit so many different planets, probably the best Star Wars game ever, and it's definitely my favorite role-playing game ever, and one of the best Xbox games ever made.
One of the great ironies in gaming history is that Microsoft's defining franchise for its Xbox console was introduced to the world by Steve Jobs on a Macworld stage. Bungie's Halo began life as a real-time strategy game for Mac and PC before mutating into the first-person shooter that changed everything forever. Microsoft acquired Bungie in 2000 and fast-tracked Halo as the centerpiece of its strange new console, leaving the studio just months to turn years of scattered prototypes into a system seller. It was a wild sprint, but Halo loudly delivered the blueprint for how shooters would come to function on console. While PC players juggled a gun for every number key, Halo forced tough choices by limiting your arsenal to 2. Generous but subtle aim assist bridged the precision gap between mouse and thumbstick, no iron sights required. Grenades and melee were no longer awkward inventory items, but immediate actions with dedicated buttons, unifying ranged attacks, explosives, and strikes into the golden triangle that finally made FPS feel intuitive on a couch.
If you were my friend, you played Halo Combat Evolved with me in grade school. Like, that's just how it went. I took everyone through it, or at least forced them into it. I remember this one friend, she kept like shooting me. And I was like, Andrea, you have to stop. We have to go kill the Flood. We're in the library. This part's tricky. Like, let's go. That all aside, like every moment, even those were like ones that just are so dear to me, and this game played it the most of any game ever. Like, I know so many of those missions by the back of my hand. An immediate classic, and just such a phenomenal experience.
From the early days of Live to the 360's endearing avatars and social events, like 1 vs 100, the gruff Xbox has always harbored a secret desire to be an all-inclusive community destination. A festival, like Forza Horizon 5. Playground Games' Mexico set Stunner is a frictionless open-world racing game that celebrates the fact that you're playing it. It's so aggressively friendly that the game literally greets you by name and calls you a superstar every chance it gets. It constantly showers you with cars, confetti, and accolades for almost everything you do across its breathtaking vistas. The driving hits a forgiving middle ground, less rigid than Gran Turismo, but you aren't exactly grinding rails or spamming boost. The cars have weight and the tires have grip, but there's a helpful rewind button to keep the vibes intact. It's a game that encourages you to forget the map and chase the horizon. It's a premium product with astonishing visuals, powerful sound design, and an engrossing loop of discovery that earned it IGN's 2021 Game of the Year, the only racing game to ever pull that off. And if you had Game Pass, it was already waiting for you on day one. Forza Horizon 5 is the fully realized promise of the modern Xbox ecosystem, a subscription-selling showcase built on the belief that powerful hardware is best used to throw a fiesta for everyone.
As a car fan, I could bore on about Forza Horizon 5 forever. I think it's the perfect driving game, not just racing game, but driving game, that experience of enjoying driving cars. Mexico was a wonderful setting, so beautiful and colourful, but what I really love about it as an old school racing game fan is that spirit of kind of outrun, those big kind of road trips that you could take with your friends. Just no objective, just driving with your mates, and I think Forza Horizon 5 absolutely nails that feeling.
For a massive corporate behemoth, Microsoft has been pretty solid when it comes to supporting artsy indie titles. Playdead's Limbo had embodied everything amazing about Xbox indie gaming, and the studio didn't look to reinvent the wheel with its follow-up, Inside. Like Limbo, it's a minimalistic side-scroller, but with richer lighting, thicker atmosphere, and a new engine that renders our silent heroes' gruesome ends with startling, wet fluidity. A new mechanic allows you to puppeteer NPCs to solve puzzles and traverse spaces, while a wordless, steadily escalating narrative evokes unthinkable horrors and enduring ambiguity. It all culminates in a shocking ending sequence that flips the perspective, mechanics, and genre itself into a body horror hoedown that must be experienced. The long wait for Inside nearly resulted in a victory for Microsoft's biggest competitor. While Limbo was a year-long Xbox exclusive, Inside was on the verge of signing a lucrative deal with Sony. Xbox head Phil Spencer personally intervened, reportedly telling the devs that he can make anything happen. The result was a 2-month exclusivity window in exchange for a massively hyped reveal at E3 2014, a deal that solidified Xbox's reputation as a patron of high-concept artistic vision.
I'm a massive fan of horror games, and I don't know if people consider Inside to be like a true horror game, but it's got some really scary stuff in there that I absolutely loved. And I think, for me, the scariest thing in Inside is the mermaids that you encounter during the bit where you're in a submarine. They're one of the scariest things I think I've ever seen in a video game. I mean, you never see them in like lists of scariest things in games, but Inside, the mermaids, terrifying.
Xbox has played a vital role in translating the arcane complexity of PC-centric genres into a language spoken by the console masses, and there's no better example of this superpower than BioShock. The spiritual successor to the dense System Shock 2, BioShock distills the multifaceted systems of an immersive sim into an easy-to-understand loop of drones, protectors, and harvesters, little sisters, big daddies, and medium-sized splicers to be dealt with via plasma powers, guns, and traps, with no need to memorize a phone book's worth of keybinds. The birth of BioShock was not a simple one for Ken Levine and the crew at Irrational Games. Playtesters famously despised the dark setting and confusing experience all the way through its development, but the last-second addition of an opening sequence primed players for the unforgettable fallen world they were about to witness, and served as one of the greatest demos of all time. In 2007, as you watched your plane's fuselage sink into the flaming, oil-slicked ocean, and then descended into the rotting Art Deco ruins of Rapture, it became utterly clear that the next gen had fully arrived, and, for a year at least, it was only on Xbox 360. BioShock was like an electrobolt to the veins of an industry in desperate need of storytelling ambition. Alongside Mass Effect, which arrived 3 months later, it spawned an art form-wide crisis of clunky moral choice systems and navel-gazing explorations of player agency. The game might seem quaint now, but like its shrug-worthy final boss, Atlas, BioShock carried a lot of Xbox's prestige on its shoulders.
So when I was in, I think it was early high school, BioShock came out, and I was so stoked. Like, just the atmosphere was like nothing I had seen before. And so this is a really special game for many reasons, but also because I played it with my twin sister sitting with me, and she would not let me play this game until she was there. And we got to this one scene where all the lights go out and you're in the spotlight as splicers are surrounding you, and it's so spooky. People just keep attacking from left and right, and we were like screaming at the top of our lungs playing this game. My mom came and she's like, "What's going on?" We're like, "The splicers are everywhere!" And oh my god, that memory lives on my heart, as does like just that entirety of this game, this story. People say it's like, that's so obvious, or it wasn't as well done, but no. Always well done in my heart.
You couldn't step outside in 2004 without inhaling hype for Halo 2. Expectations lay heavily on Bungie as the studio ballooned the sequel scope after Halo's success, writing checks they simply couldn't cash within the schedule. The entire third act of the campaign was cut, leaving an infamous cliffhanger, as Master Chief tells us we're about to get to the good part right before the game smashes the credits. And a large-scale warfare mode involving strikes and squad-based combat was similarly scrapped. Everything about development spelled disaster, yet the game was anything but. Halo 2 landed like a scorpion take on the streets of New Mombasa, grossing $125 million within 24 hours of release. The single player introduces new enemies like brutes and offers the Covenant's perspective through Keith David's Icy Arbiter, while dual-wielded weapons, tighter balance, and top-tier set-piece missions earn Halo its blockbuster bona fides. It was the multiplayer, however, that truly made Halo 2 integral to Xbox. It didn't launch with Xbox Live, though it wasn't for lack of trying, and after making do for a year with the likes of Mech Assault and Unreal Championship, players were rewarded with a revolutionary online experience. Matchmaking, stat tracking, a seamless party system, and official clan support allowed you to enlist your buddies in a brotherhood. More than just an incredible FPS, Halo 2 stitched together the social fabric of Xbox and laid the foundation for a connected world to come.
Halo 2 is simply put my favorite multiplayer game of all time. Its multiplayer genuinely changed not just Xbox, but really all of gaming. Its online multiplayer system, which was like a virtual couch, meant you could get together with your friends and stay together all night, whether you wanted to go into matchmaking or just play a private match. They had ranked multiplayer. There was just so much going on in that multiplayer, and Bungie made it so easy. And on top of that, you had this incredible game with maybe the greatest single collection of multiplayer maps. I can't even name them all because I'd go on all day about this, but Halo 2 genuinely changed not just Xbox, but all of gaming with its multiplayer, to say nothing of its excellent single-player campaign too.
For better and for worse, Gears of War was the zeitgeist-defining franchise of 7th-generation console gaming. It popularized cover-based shooting amidst arenas filled with chest-high walls. It introduced the roadie run, a hunched camera sprint that shook like our hyper-masculine heroes were being hounded by TMZ. Its ethos of destroyed beauty became shorthand for brown and bloom AAA prestige, while melancholy pop covers attempted to imbue gravitas onto necklace meat mountains made of deltoids and do-rags. But something unexpected happened over time. Gears grew up. In a medium where sequels often buckle under bloat, every entry in the Gears of War trilogy successfully refined the formula. From the revolutionary horde mode to the wall-bouncing shotgun meta of multiplayer, its mechanical systems sharpened and crystallized until they hit their final form in Gears of War 3. Gears 3 is the forever version of the series' design, honed to razor precision and bolstered by additions like the beefed-up Horde 2.0. We'd come to expect such incremental improvements from Gears over the years, but the real surprise was the story finally settling into its armor. After years of dismissal as a mindless shooter, Gears 3 shocked the world with genuine emotional payoff. The reveal of Adam Phoenix, the sacrifice of a fan-favorite character, and a somber reprise of Mad World that earns its tears for fears. Gears of War 3 is the swan song of the Unreal Engine 3 era, as Cliff Bleszinski and Epic Games squeeze every ounce of power, performance, and raw vascularity from aging Xbox 360 hardware to deliver a refreshingly vibrant finale that easily hangs with early Xbox One titles. While the Coalition carries the torch today, and the series has emerged on other platforms, Gears of War 3 remains the pinnacle. A bro-do blockbuster that leaves a lump in your throat and proves that behind all the bulk and bravado, Xbox actually has a soul.
Gears of War 3, the end of the first sort of trilogy of Gears of War games, and I think just the absolute pinnacle of that first trilogy. Obviously, we'd had the kind of Dom and Maria stuff in Gears of War 2, and then in Gears 3, you got Dom's final heroic sacrifice. And what I love about Gears of War is that even though all the characters look like NFL linebackers, this is the series that taught Xbox fans it's okay to cry, as long as you do it while you're killing a buttload of Lambent.
Before it became the swirling cosmic mass around which the entire gaming industry revolves, Grand Theft Auto V was simply a highly anticipated sequel. It was always going to be big, but few could have predicted the cultural gravity. By 2013, the hardware was 8 years old, and those with aging consoles winced at the jet engine roar of their machines and braced for flashing red rings as they booted up GTA 5. But the game ran with surprising resilience, proving Xbox was no longer a secondary platform for Rockstar's crown jewel. That technical achievement was outshined only by ambition. GTA 5 reinvented the series with a 3-protagonist structure that lets you experience the streets of Los Santos through the chaotic collision of 3 wildly different crime story archetypes. A formalized heist system codified some of the series' most iconic past missions into a core game mechanic complete with strategic crew management and multi-stage setups. Its sandbox overflowed with bespoke activities and an unmatched sense of SoCal scale. More than a decade later, the city still feels alive in a way few open worlds ever have. The Xbox One version sanded away the remaining rough edges with visual upgrades and an eye-opening first-person mode, while giving GTA Online the headroom to become the default video game for millions of players. That longevity affirmed Xbox's role as the ultimate generalist console, the best place to play the world's biggest games. GTA 5 earns its place here through design excellence and cultural dominance, a landmark open-world achievement, and a cornerstone of the Xbox identity. Massive, accessible, endlessly replayable, and impossible to ignore.
So when I was a kid, I think one of my cousins showed me like a Grand Theft Auto like 2 or 3, and I was like way too young to be seeing that. I was like, this is not for my child eyes. I think he was in like a strip club or something. So when GTA 5 rolled around, I was in college, and I was like, you know what? I am no longer a child. It's time for me to know like what everyone loves about GTA. And I was so smitten. I think it was like the first game in a very long time where I was just constantly thinking about getting back to it. I was like in classes just thinking, yeah, I'm gonna go do this when I get home. Like I'm gonna go do this heist. I'm gonna go play tennis for hours just because I can. And I think GTA 5 specifically sits in such a fantastic space in open world games in that time, and also just now too. Like it's such a delight to go back to.
BioWare's greatest strength has always been its cast of kooky companions, and Mass Effect 2 leans into that entirely. It constructs an entire AAA experience about hanging out with your buddies, earning their trust, and hurling them headlong into a suicide mission because Martin Sheen told you to. The main plot, revolving around the mysterious collectors, is pretty obvious middle chapter wheel spinning as we await the arrival of the big bad Reapers. But the lack of forward propulsion doesn't really matter when you're falling in love with a girl in a gas mask or singing Gilbert and Sullivan with a brilliant amphibian. It's a sci-fi space opera slice of life. Mass Effect 2 sands down the overly technical RPG barbs of its predecessor, moving away from tabletop-inspired combat in favor of punchy, cover-based shooting with regenerating health and snappy biotic powers on speed dial. The aggravating planet exploration of the first game is replaced by the oddly zen loop of launching probes to farm resources for crucial upgrades. Even conversation receives a kinetic upgrade with the introduction of context-sensitive interrupts that allow Shepard to quite literally pull the trigger on certain scenes, providing the satisfaction of punting a mouthy merc mid-monologue. BioWare magic has become a rather infamous and oft-debated industry term, but whatever it is, it's extremely evident in Mass Effect 2. The magic is in making you care so deeply about the weirdo outcasts sitting in your cargo bay that the thought of losing even one of them is unacceptable. While Mass Effect 3 inflated the scale, Mass Effect 2 remains the series' high watermark in the definitive Xbox RPG, a timeless fusion of hardware and heart.
I think the thing that amazed me about Mass Effect 2 was how consequential and stressful the final mission was. I don't think a game before or since has ever had that sense of gravitas and weight to a sort of a finale, and I still wake up in cold sweats thinking about the time I accidentally let Tali Zora get carried off by space bees. Did I reload my save? Yes. Would I do it again? Absolutely.
Built from the ground up for new hardware, Halo 3's development was significantly smoother than its predecessors, delivering a Technicolor, high-definition vision of the series' sandbox. The campaign was paced like a greatest hits album, tying up the loose ends from the abrupt blackout of Halo 2 with a series of bangers that peaks with the Covenant, a dual Scarab demolition job that finishes the fight against the eponymous alien cult. You can carve a Mount Rushmore of FPS missions from the back half of Halo 3 alone, the unfortunate Cortana accepted. Halo 3 feels like closure. Beyond the killer campaign, the multiplayer hums with a level of community-driven energy the industry has spent decades trying to replicate. The minute-to-minute action didn't break the mold, but it refined the experience with a pristine map suite and the game-changing addition of Forge, a real-time map editor that unleashed an avalanche of creativity and became the forerunner of massive, user-generated ecosystems found today in Minecraft, Roblox, and Fortnite. Just 10 days after the launch of Halo 3, Bungie and Microsoft announced their split. Bungie would have its independence to seek its destiny elsewhere in exchange for developing 2 more entries in the Halo franchise before handing the keys over to Microsoft's in-house 343 studios. Halo and Xbox would never be the same again. Halo 3 wasn't the studio's final Halo game, but it was the last one that unmistakably felt like Bungie's. A parting blast of creative certainty before the series began chasing trends instead of setting them. Additions like customizable armor and special equipment were harbingers of the sprinting, loadouts, and live service hooks that would later dilute the core principles of the series. But we couldn't have known that at the time. We were standing at the summit of peak Halo with nowhere to go but down.
So for Halo 3, it was like the thing in high school for me. It was either you're a Halo person or you're a Call of Duty person. I was firmly a Halo person with a little bit of Call of Duty on the side. But Halo 3 was where multiplayer really took off for me and I think my generation. Obviously, that was such a huge highlight, but the campaign was also so sick. And I remember playing through the ending and just feeling like I was on top of the world or something. It was just such a great time seeing Chief's story through to at least the end of the first trilogy.
Halo 3 is the first time I've ever done the launch day LAN party things. We got 4 Xbox 360s, 4 screens, and played through an entire day's worth of the adventures of Master Chief, the Arbiter, and those other 2 Covenant Elite that showed up as, I assume they're the Arbiter's friends. I will never forget their sacrifice.
Xbox emerged in 2001 with Halo Combat Evolved as its beating heart, and 6 years later, Halo 3 closed the book on the brand's golden age. It was the last time Xbox felt unquestionably central to gaming, the definitive high watermark before a restless search for identity sent the platform down dead ends of motion control moonshots, multimedia hubs, and increasingly Byzantine hardware naming schemes. None of that defines Xbox. Not the corporate pivots, not the gamer cliches, not the tribalistic noise of console wars. Xbox is 25 years worth of memories and experiences that became landmarks in our lives, the enduring connections and newfound communities that shaped us, and the incredible games that made us all believe. What is your favorite Xbox game of all time? Did it make our list? Let us know your thoughts and memories in the comments, and for everything else Xbox and more, stick with us here at IGN.